This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome. Oh, I forgot completely. Oh, thank you, Jack, for that. All right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And apparently the music decided that they needed to play that lovely little moment for us. Thank you. But hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flying Cow live stream. We are here, because I like to do this every once in a while, every couple of months or so, and just have people on, talk about whatever we want to talk about. But also, I like to use this as a time to make some announcements. But before we do that, Jack, how are you doing today?
Sorry, kind of was caught unawares.
Were you?
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm very happy to be here today.
Yeah.
I would do anything to be on the Flying Cow podcast. So thank you, as always, Clay, for having me on once again.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. We are here. The main thing that we're going to be doing today is for anybody that has viewed it on our Patreon or anything like that. A couple of years ago, you and I actually did kind of the Hot Ones challenge. And during that, we actually shared like our favorite movies from the previous year. But you contacted me just a couple of weeks ago,
which was really interesting, by the way.
Yeah,
because oh god.
But yeah, you told me that you wanted to do that again, but this time you had your own sauces.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the perfect opportunity because I've been growing a lot of my own peppers this year. They actually were working out okay, and I figured let's start working with some hot sauces. I came out with a couple. It tasted pretty good, and I figured let's experiment. Let's make some fun with it. Clay, you and I have already talked about movies over some Hot Ones, the actual Hot Ones lineup before. I messaged you. You actually messaged me at the same time. Like you said to me at first, I think you said like, "Hey, I want to do another live stream. Like, can we talk about what really happened on 9/11?" And I said, and I said, "Okay, I like where your head's at."
Yeah, because that's something I want to talk about.
Well, I mean, and to which I said, maybe something like less figuratively spicy, but more literally spicy. So here we are. Yeah, I made 10 different concoctions today, and we're going to go through them and talk about some movies.
Awesome. All right. But before we do that, I do have a couple of announcements for the channel that I want people to know about. First of all, kind of some fun news for anybody that has been paying attention. Last year, I did a Patreon exclusive podcast on our Patreon. It was called Around the Worrell. And we talked about all things Ernest P. Worrell, all of the Ernest movies. And you guys might have noticed that I actually released the first episode on the main feed again. We did that last year as a free taste test. But I've decided since that series ended, and we're actually working on a new project right now, which I'll talk more about in just a second. I'm going to release Around the Worrell for free on the main feed. Now, what the main feed will be is actually the next subject of announcements, because any of my friends already know I have been dealing with some, just say, financial issues. I live in a two bedroom apartment that usually I have a roommate with, and since between February and the end of July, I was paying for all of it myself because I had two roommates in a row that just decided they didn't want to pay rent. Thankfully, I have a good roommate now, but I'm in quite a lot of financial difficulty, and there are other things going on So it's going to be best for me to kind of streamline some of the things that I have been doing. So I will probably be doing a little less output wise. And I'm also looking into the possibility of putting the podcast feed on hold simply because I have to pay for that. What I don't have to pay for, though, is YouTube. So I'm going to start putting all of our videos on YouTube for free. So if you haven't been watching the podcast, but you have been watching our videos, there's going to be a lot more for you guys to enjoy for free on the YouTube channel. If you have been listening to the podcast feed, like I said, I haven't completely decided what we're going to do with that, but we are going to mainly focus on the YouTube channel. So I do hope that you will join us over there if we decide to put the podcast feed on hold. But everything that we're going to be doing right now is going to be on the YouTube channel. The main things that we're going to keep going as often as I can, we're going to keep doing Discussions, the Disney podcast. And we are officially moving the Avatar podcast, Comets and Cabbages, to the main YouTube channel. So I haven't started releasing that yet, but I believe the first episode is going to be out this Saturday. So make sure to check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And look forward to seeing everyone on YouTube.
Right on. The best things in life are free.
Yeah, apparently.
Yep.
All right. But right now, it is time to get into the main event.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So just like last time, we're going to be eating these chicken wings. We're going to be, doing this kind of challenge. But since neither Jack and I are celebrities, it's nobody really cares about hearing an interview.
Excuse me.
Okay.
What is my title again?
Yes, Lord Jack Allison, two-time Teddy Award winner. Yeah, although there were definitely some shenanigans around that last one. I'm just gonna say, and can I also say I am also a Teddy Award winner now? So yeah, I mean everything's fair and even.
No comment.
Like I said, interviews, we're not going to do that. But we have decided instead to have kind of a movie discussion. So because we are right up to, October's next month, just a couple days away, actually, we are going to be discussing our favorite, or
kind of,
I will say, yeah, I am calling this kind of format top 5.
Yeah.
So basically, we are going to be discussing 5 horror films that we would like to discuss. I already told you, I'm like, I don't know if I can call these my 5 favorite horror films, but they're definitely ones that I want to talk about.
Yeah, my criteria was essentially, I think I would say that right now, if I had to pick, these would be my favorite right now.
Sure.
I mean, I'm always hesitant to say top 5 movies of any kind, just because I'm always going to change my mind on it. But
sure,
yeah, with these, I try to go with like the Cinefix approach, where it's like not only are they in quality, are they kind of advancing for me, but they're also they're broken up, they're mixed up a little bit. So
okay.
Yeah, that's my that's my general gist. I don't want like the same kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that.
So, yeah. So and also, and on that note, and because your dog is being very friendly right now.
Oh yeah.
Because this is a movie discussion, I have actually, when I'm making these different hot sauces, I have named 2 of the sauces after movie references.
Oh, okay, very nice.
2.
All right. So this is what we're gonna do. We're going to go back and forth naming our picks because there's 10. So each one of us get 5. And so I believe we'll try a wing, and then the person will say their pick.
I think that's what
All
we
right.
did last time.
Yeah. So I think let's start with you.
Yes. And just to remind you, we're going to be going counterclockwise. So you have a
Right.
1 on your plate, and you're just going to
Okay.
go to the that way. Okay.
The right.
Yeah. So this first sauce is called things your grandma gets up to when you're not visiting her.
Of course, that's what it's called. All right. So this is the first wing.
Yep.
And as a reminder, these are sauces that Jack has created himself.
Ahmed. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the wing is kind of charred. That's mostly what I'm tasting here, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be the most mild flavor.
Okay.
This is a lemon butter pepper.
Okay. Okay, I got a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm. It's my personal favorite. Like whenever I do like a go-to for wings, I love it. And I decided to kind of take it easy on us for our first round, obviously, as we progress.
Sure.
And I guess to start with my first movie, my number 5 is a movie called Mad God. Now, have you seen
that came out last year, right?
That or the year before? Yeah, one of the two.
I think it was last year because one of the podcasts I listened to, one of the guys on there loved that movie. That was Phil Tippett, right?
Yep, it was Phil Tippett. Basically, I mean, literally a god in terms of like the special effects industry. This was his baby for like 30 years, and it came out again, I think, last year. I had the chance to see it in theaters. It was a wonderful experience. I bought it as soon as I could when I got home, like a physical copy. Phenomenal movie. It's very. There's not really a way to prepare someone for going into it because it is like literally a journey. Almost no dialogue whatsoever in the 90-minute run of the film. It basically follows this explorer in like this almost post-apocalyptic sort of environment, traveling to the depths of this strange underworld beneath him to deliver a package. And it's very head trippy. Just your jaw is just on the floor the entire time. Just the scale of everything. Again, when you say this is like a movie that took 30 years to make, there's not a doubt in your mind watching the film at any given point that, oh my God, this took so much work to do because it's all stop motion. It's all stop motion animation, which was also one of the reasons why I put this on my list because I didn't really have much in terms of animation on this countdown. And you know, stop animated horror films. They're out there, but you don't see them talked about a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Nightmare Before Christmas is an infamous one. Corpse Bride, a lot of them are associated with Tim Burton in one way or another.
But you don't typically see the ones that are like more geared for adults because this one is like absolutely like gore, balls to the wall. Like, I mean, it's I can't even describe some of it without us getting flagged possibly. So
sure.
Yeah. Great film. Love it. I plan to watch it every year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I guess now we're going to wing number 2.
Wing number 2. Yes. This one is called, what is this one called? Hold on. This one is called Warmth.
Okay. All right.
As we start to kind of climb the scale.
Yeah. All right. So here we are, wing number 2. Okay. That one definitely has a more pronounced flavor, and I already get a little bit of heat there. Okay, what's the flavor profile here?
This one is more on the herbal side.
Okay.
I'm still keeping it easy on us. This one is a de-seeded jalapeno with cucumber and
cucumber. That's what I'm tasting. Okay.
Yeah, the cucumbers are definitely pronounced in that one. And sage, pineapple sage, also from my
okay.
So
yeah, I'm definitely getting the sage and the cucumber. I don't know that I taste the pineapple.
Well, the pineapple sage, you got to put a shit ton of that in there, and I just didn't. I want to keep my plant alive at least till winter.
All right. So then we're going to my list, and like I said, Definitely not my top 5. It's hard to even say that they're in much of an order, but they are kind of in a bit of an order of ones that I want, people to pay attention to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for my number 5, I'm cheating a little bit because it's a combo. Because I actually think that the second movie works better if you watch it in conjunction with the first. So mine is a double feature of The Shining and Dr. Sleep.
Which the miniseries or the Kubrick film?
The Kubrick film.
Okay.
I believe Dr. Sleep came out in like 2018, something like that.
Yeah, definitely before the pandemic.
Yeah. And I had seen The Shining, but had not seen. I didn't see Dr. Sleep when it came out. In fact, I don't think I saw it until Halloween of 2020. Obviously, like a lot of people, I ended up watching a lot more television than I might normally. And I will say I'm kind of newer to horror. It's only been within the last like 10 years that I've really kind of tried to do a bit of a deep dive on horror, mostly because growing up, I always thought that I didn't like horror movies because I equated them all with slashers. But as I started to listen to movie podcasts and stuff, I started to realize not only is horror such a varied genre, even if I don't like slashers, there are a lot of other things to visit, but also there's a lot more layers to horror than that. And, even then there are actually slasher films that I do like. So I have kind of just been slowly but surely, I try to introduce myself to new horror movies every year. Sometimes I get more than other years. And so 2020, obviously, I got a lot in. And I'd already seen, like I said, The Shining. But I was like, you know what? I haven't seen Dr. Sleep yet. It was on, I think, was Max out in October 2020. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was already out then. HBO Max. Because I'm pretty sure that's where I watched it. But that was out, and I think The Shining was either on Netflix or I was able to get a copy. But I was like, I want to watch Dr. Sleep, but I want to rewatch The Shining first. Sure. So rewatch The Shining, and for anybody that's not familiar, Dr. Sleep is basically a follow-up. It's the sequel story to The Shining. Obviously, Stephen King's book, Dr. Sleep, is a direct sequel to his book The Shining. But if anybody's familiar with Kubrick's version of the film, they know that Kubrick took some liberties to the point that he was not a fan of Stephen King was not a fan of some of the decisions that he made, partially because he kind of villainized the Jack Nicholson character, and Stephen King really kind of saw himself in the Jack Nicholson character. But watched them back to back, and I think even like the filmmaker said, like the Kubrick's version of The Shining is really the story through the young child Danny's eyes, whereas obviously the book is from the perspective more of the Jack Nicholson character, the father. I can't remember the father's actual name, which is why I keep calling him Jack Nicholson. But I think it actually might be Jack.
It was Jack.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, so
I remembered.
And so it's a very interesting, because Dr. Sleep is also obviously from the perspective of Danny. So they did a very kind of interesting thing where, their version of Dr. Sleep is a sequel to the book as it was written, but it's also kind of a spiritually a sequel to Kubrick's film as well, and kind of, marrying those two ideas, and kind of, there are bits where we see, Danny dealing with, the trauma that he experienced there, and kind of seeing, his father characterized in different ways, and kind of come to grips with, that, and, his father kind of explaining, what was going on during that time in The Shining for him. And so it kind of, like I said, kind of marries those two perspectives. And I found it interesting. I think it was one of the first films that I'd really noticed Rebecca Ferguson, and she's phenomenal in Dr. Sleep.
Yes, she is.
And so I just really enjoyed the double feature of that. Like I said, I haven't ever watched it without The Shining. I think you would at least have had to recently watch The Shining, or just have it ingrained in your head to really get Dr. Sleep. If you weren't going to watch them back to back, I don't think it works as well without The Shining, because it really does require a lot of backstory. But I think if you have that backstory, I think it works well as a film, and I think it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, because I read the book. I read the book a couple of years before the film came out, and I was knowing that they were making, because they were filming it in Georgia, the film, and I was like wondering the entire time I'm reading this, I'm thinking like how, because obviously most people that think of The Shining, you think of the Kubrick one, which took a lot of liberties, as you said.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, how are they going to do this without completely changing this book as well?
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that are altered, primarily like the comeuppance of a certain character. But Mike Flanagan was the one who adapted this and directed it. And for the most part, I have a lot of trust in his work. He did like Haunting of Hill House, Bly Manor, a lot of those Netflix shows that you've seen. And I think he's got something coming out this coming month.
Okay.
Which I'm excited about. But yeah, Rebecca's great in that film. I love her work as a whole. I think Ewan did a great job. And honestly, my biggest MVP of that movie was the actors who played both his mother in the flashbacks, as well as the Scatman Crothers character.
Okay.
They were so well, I mean, again, they aren't in the film too much, but they were so well cast. It didn't feel like an impression. It felt like it was. If you told me that was her daughter, the actress's daughter who played Wendy Torrance, I'd be like, oh my god, okay, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Shelley Duvall's daughter?
Shelley Duvall, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So and she was excellent. Again, for what little she was in the film, but yeah, good film. It's interesting that it's just in keeping with the book, but it is starkly different from The Shining. It doesn't feel like a direct sequel aside from the characters. Kind of like Stephen King book, if you ever read it, Talisman, going into the book Black House.
Okay.
Also, technically a direct sequel, but very different type of tone to it. So yeah, that was a fun watch.
All right. Yeah, and Dr. Sleep came out in 2019, not 2018. But
okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that was definitely one of the last movies I saw before lockdown.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. We ready for round 3?
Yeah, we're down to wing number 3 now. All right,
okay.
It's got this kind of orangey.
Yep, that's the one.
Sauce on it. Okay.
This one is called Uncle Kisses.
Oh, of course.
This is one of the first sauces I made. This is all from habaneros from my garden.
I will say it's definitely it's definitely one of the thicker sauces.
This one is I named it Uncle Kisses because it starts off like kind of sweet, kind of like okay, all right, but then it starts like creeping up into like, am I getting uncomfortable with this? Is this right? Is this okay? I don't think I'm okay. So Uncle Kisses was apropos. But yeah, this is one of the first ones I made, and this was kind of what started it all. I like this one a lot. This is one I'll definitely be remaking.
Definitely, as you say, I definitely get the sweetness. It's like a nice flavor, but I get the kick pretty immediately, to be honest.
Everyone has a different experience with Uncle Kisses, so that's fair. But
and what's the flavor profile here?
So yeah, we're looking at I kind of bolstered the sweet side of it with some carrot and apple cider vinegar for the base.
Mm-hmm.
On the back end, I threw in some garlic along with the habanero and some smoked paprika to kind of give like a little bit of an ashy back end.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this guy. Like I said, not too strong that you can't you can't enjoy it outside of the novelty.
Right.
But you still know you're playing with a little bit of fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And which
that's definitely true.
I guess takes me into my number 4 pick.
Right.
Which is a movie called Climax.
Okay.
I think this one came out in 2018, 2019 as well, actually.
Okay.
This one is from A24. I didn't know much about it going into the film. I just kind of knew the rough premise, and that was kind of what sold me. The story, if you haven't heard of it, it's about, and I'll preface, this is a very divisive film. You're either going to love it or hate it, just because of how it's presented. But you're looking at a dance academy, and I think it's in Austria, but I may be wrong on that one. Okay. But they all get together to have like this major rave one night in this warehouse they rented out, and during the party, someone slips LSD into the punch bowl, and everyone starts basically progressing into bad trips.
Okay.
To where and I think that's the movie itself is very its pacing is interesting. That's where it kind of gets divisive because it starts off like interviews with people, and it slows you very much into like the story before things actually start to kind of go into a roller coaster. You don't really know the horror is hitting you until you're in the midst of it, I guess. And once you're kind of there, you almost feel like you can't even trust yourself. And I think for me, that's what attracted me so much to the film. It's that I think for me, the horror that I tend to love the most is the type where the psychological. Like I think the when your brain, the thing that you should be trusting the most is the thing that's working against you to provide. When your brain, your most trusted source of whatever is turning on you, that's terrifying to me. And I think this is one of those films where that's absolutely like pushed to an 11. And again, Gaspar Noé, the guy who directed it, is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like I said, he's very much. I can't think of a movie you and I have watched together that I would compare it to necessarily, but it is an absolute trip in the most literal and figurative sense. Do not watch it high because that may make it worse. Not speaking from personal experience or anything. Yeah. But if you're ever looking for something that's just really out there and on the abstract side, I would give this one a go because again, it's like 90 minutes, I think. But it's wild. It's wild. I can't say much more than that, but like there's just some moments that just still make me kind of cringe, reminiscing on.
Sure.
So yeah, Climax. It's a good time.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So then we are in our fourth wing.
Yes, which is this one is called Tropical Cinder.
Okay. All right. Yes. All right. Again, I'm getting the kick pretty early on, but it's not got a nice flavor here.
This one is also habanero, a little bit less than the last one, but it's coupled with smoked mango and more of that pineapple sage I was telling you about.
Okay. Yeah. Again, these wings are smoked, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes if the smoke flavor is coming from the sauce or from the wing itself. But
you'll know the smoky ones when we get there.
Okay.
No question.
Okay. All right. So
it begins.
All right. So sorry. I can't just eat the smallest part of a wing. I gotta actually eat the wing.
Attaboy.
All right, so that was the fourth wing, and we are at my number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 4 is a film that I watched on recommendation a few years ago. This is another one that I watched during 2020.
Mm.
Sorry, that is creeping up on me. We're only on number 4.
I'm not going to be invited back after this.
All right. So yeah, my number 4 is a film that after I heard the description of it, I was like, okay, that sounds like a horror film that I would enjoy. So I sought it out, and it's called Ready or Not.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's also from 2019.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I know it hadn't been out too long when I watched it, but it's just, I mean, for anybody that doesn't know the basic premise, it is about a woman who is just married into a very well-to-do family. And, it seems like all of her dreams are coming true. Everything seems perfect. And, they get married and they just ask, before you guys go off, we have to play a game. And, it could be anything from, playing cards or, pin the tail on the donkey or something like that, or just silly little games. But she draws hide and seek. And little does she know that was the wrong card to draw. Because basically, as it progresses, we discover that this family, and I will say right now, this is a full spoiler. Because I mean, and even some of these movies coming up, I'm gonna say if you haven't seen this movie, you might want to walk away for a little bit because some of these are best if you to come in cold. But it's kind of hard to talk fully about these if we don't discuss. Plus, it's 2019. You've had some time. But basically, the family has made a deal with the devil that any new person that joins their family has to play a game, and if they draw hide and seek, then they have to kill them before the sun comes up, and if they don't, then basically it's on them. The pact that they've made is broken.
Yep.
And so she basically sets out to. She obviously doesn't know that, but she does know that suddenly they're trying to kill her, and basically she's just trying to survive the night. And at first she seems kind of victimized, but eventually she kind of starts fighting back. And actually it's a really good turn I mean, it's Samara Weaving is the lead character, but it also features a really good turn by Andy McDowell, who plays the mother in this. And she is, I mean, a believable mother in a horrible family. You can tell that she loves her family, but is also, fighting tooth and nail to kill this woman just so that they can keep the things. And, so obviously there's a lot of, the powerful trying to stay powerful, the rich trying to stay rich, no matter what it does to anybody else. And it's a really good film, really fun to watch, but also has some very interesting and true things to say. So yeah.
It's also that one. The cool thing about it, I found out after the fact, was people who made it were like these YouTubers I used to watch in college all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like tiny little. I mean, they were successful back then, but like
Sure.
they, when you looking back then, I'm like, oh my god, these guys made like this full on like awesome slasher film. I'm like, yeah, I think it was really cool to find out it was them.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but yeah. All right. You go ahead.
All right.
Oh, wait. Actually, we need to eat the fifth wing, right?
We do. And after this wing, I'm going to go ahead and re-dab you just in case, because I see some of these have dried out a little bit over the time.
Okay.
Some of these wings are like downy towels. Next one up for us, we have a similar wing as last time, but this one is called I Bought a Pressure Washer. And this was the top voted name from my Instagram page. So if you're watching, thank you for helping contribute to this one.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so this is I Bought a Pressure Washer.
Okay. All right. I will say the color of this one is very similar to the last one. Okay, but definitely has a more tangy kind of situation going on.
This one was unsmoked pineapple. That's going to be mango. With a little bit more garlic and a combo of and more habaneros. And I actually think I threw a jalapeno in there because I had an extra one. I needed to get rid of it.
Okay.
So I bought a pressure washer, named it, of course, for the color. One more bite. Okay, 3 more bites. Okay. My number 3 is it's called Train to Busan. Have you seen this one called?
I have not seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. South Korean film. I've heard of it for years. I think it came out in 2016. Finally caught it. Saw it once. It was in my Amazon shopping cart before the movie was even done. It was a great experience. If you don't know about it, it's the premise is South Korean train is traveling to Busan, and a zombie apocalypse happens to occur just as the train takes off.
Sure.
Not uncommon with your typical kind of zombie movie. You tend to think, all right, like what kind of cool, crazy, wacky scenario can we get this end? But what I think sets this one apart for me from like a lot of other zombie movies that I've seen is that this one has really well fleshed out characters in tandem with the excellent execution of the zombie attacks, the gore, the mechanics. There's good world building when it comes to like the mechanics of how the zombies work and how they don't work, and finding out what they're weak against, what they're strong against, and how these people in the car have to kind of work together. It's almost like a Snowpiercer kind of thing too, with the way some of the classes.
I was about to say, yeah.
But it's the characters are great, the arcs are great. The English dub can be hit or miss for some people. I'm not crazy about it, but Chris Sabat is voicing the villain. Which, if you ever want to hear the voice of Vegeta do a douchebag Japanese businessman, then South Korean businessman, check it out. But no, it really does pull some heartstrings too. I think his name is Don Lee. He played Gilgamesh, I believe, in the Eternals movie. If you happen to see that one,
okay.
He's in the film and he's awesome. Like he is such a great character. Like as far as like his arc and just his personality is like larger than life. He's very chattish, but in like a fun way.
Sure.
Yeah, Train to Busan's great. Like again, it's got some good drama. It's got the kind of awesome kind of like zombie gore you kind of look forward to. The idea of that you kind of associate with World War Z, where you have like the hordes of zombies just kind of like moving like water almost.
Sure.
This movie kind of incorporates a separate thing within train cars, but it feels less silly to me, I guess, for lack of a better expression. Because I think, and I'm not, that's not even a slight towards World War Z. I think World War Z knew what it was doing with those effects. But this one, when those happen, you're like, oh God. There's great tension moments built up throughout it. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend this one. If there's honestly, it's probably my favorite zombie. Well, I mean, it's on my list. It's probably my favorite zombie film, bar few.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna come in there real quick and just dab you off. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Talk about horror movies or something.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, as we've been talking, you made me think of a new horror movie that I had completely forgotten. And so I've added it on my list. So my list is slightly different than before we even started. Yeah, go ahead. Come on in. For those, I didn't announce it. I meant to. Jack is actually in my apartment, but because of the way things are, the way these things are set up, it was better for him to actually be in the other room. So I do apologize if anybody has been hearing echo. It's just what we had to deal with.
You just told them that you just told your audience that you left me in your house.
I did.
I'm feeling sorry for you.
Well, see, this is so they know if anything happens to me. Why?
I don't know.
All right. So once Jack gets his sauces put back, we can go ahead and break into. This is our 6th wing.
Yep. Let me top. Oh, I don't need those. Wait, no. Yeah, I do need those. Okay. Yeah. Let me top this off really quickly. And whose turn is it? Is it my turn or your turn?
For movies, it's me.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess in that time, I can go ahead and introduce this one. This one is called The Rock from the Scorpion King.
Okay. The Rock. Okay. It's specifically The Rock from the Scorpion King,
the
not
Rock
from any of his other movies.
Specifically, the Scorpion King.
Okay.
This is a title suggested to me by my buddy Will. So thank you, Will, if you're watching.
I will say, I think I accidentally dipped this in one of the other sauces on the bottom. So
that's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Is it one you've already had?
Yeah. Oh,
cool.
yeah.
Okay. Cheers, mate.
All right. Here we go. Okay. Again, already getting a bit of the heat.
Mm-hmm.
But I am liking the kind of tangy citrus, I'm guessing, notes. No? Okay.
No, not one.
It is some sort of tang, though.
Is this the lighter looking sauce?
Yeah.
The creamier looking one? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I did get a different sauce on the bottom, but I haven't eaten the bottom yet. So.
Okay. Yeah, this one's more of like a tahini side. I actually quite like this one. It's this one uses scorpion peppers, and I think that's the next one. Never mind.
Forget what we just said.
This one had that is this. I almost said something else. Yeah,
I was going to say if it's from the Scorpion King.
This one is a scorpion pepper tahini, and this is the only one that I experimented with when it came to sesame oil, and I actually quite like this one a lot. I think it's among the more versatile ones of the ones I made. I gave my buddy a bottle for his birthday recently, and he's told me as much, and I put it to the test, and I've liked everything I put it on as well. So nice. I definitely plan to remake this one as we go because I dig this one. But yeah, it's burning my tongue.
Yeah, I will say, while I'm eating, it's kind of subsiding, but the more that we talk and expose it to air, it's probably, I'm feeling it.
Yeah, so, which is great because it's your turn to talk.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so like I said, as you were talking about one of your other films, my list did go through a transformation, but we're not to those films yet. Okay. So the last two are the ones that kind of got switched around. But this one was still in my number 3 spot. This is a little bit more in the horror comedy realm. But definitely, there's kind of a difference between horror comedy and comedy horror. Because you can have, a film that leads with the horror, but is still funny. Something like your Evil Deads or something like that. And then you can have something that leads with the comedy, but is also kind of spooky. Something like a Young Frankenstein or something like that. So this is definitely still leading horror, but there's definitely, some humor to it. Just kind of because of the absurdity of it. And it is the film Happy Death Day. If you're not familiar with Happy Death Day, basically it takes kind of the Groundhog Day kind of setup and puts it in a horror film. So basically it follows a young woman who...
her name is Tree.
Yes, her name is Tree, played by Jessica Roth. And I will say growing up, I actually had a like an adopted sister named Teresa, and we all called her Tree. So this is one of the first times that I've heard other people call someone named Teresa Tree. And I was like, see, I was not crazy. That is a typical nickname for Teresa's. But you know, at the beginning of the film, she's really kind of self-absorbed, self-centered, all of this kind of stuff. Just really kind of not a great person. Very much kind of Bill Murray in Groundhog Day.
When you mentioned
And
that.
yeah. So you know, like I said, she goes about her day, and at the end of every day, basically, she gets killed and then has to relive the day up until the point that she gets murdered again. And, you know, so obviously the twist on the Groundhog Day thing is that not just, you know, trying to figure out why is this happening or anything like that. It's more just like, okay, well, I have to figure out who the hell is killing me. So, you know, there's kind of a murder mystery aspect to it, but also she is depicted as, you know, she's in college, but she's not a very good student. She's not really been focusing on those. So she's not like, you know, the brightest bulb. So she needs some help. So she basically enlists this guy whose bedroom she keeps waking up in. It's not really explained early on in the film as to why, but she keeps waking up in this guy's bedroom, and she basically enlists him to help her track down this murderer. And so, like I said, you've got the horror elements, you've got the comedy elements, and you've also got like a mystery going on. So it's a lot of fun, like a lot of mixed things going on here. And I just, you know, obviously there's great character development. She progresses throughout the film, and you know, the one criticism I will throw at it is I really wish, because there's like one day, you know how at the end of Groundhog Day, he has like the best day ever.
Right.
And like that's where they leave it. That's where he kind of like finishes things off. She has the best day ever and then gets killed again. And I'm just like, because it's not just the best day ever for her. It's like the best day ever for the people around her.
Yeah, she goes.
You know?
She learns how to take care of these people throughout the course of the film.
Exactly. And that kind of gets undone when she gets killed, and they don't show her redoing those things.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, that's like the one thing that I wish, you know, that I would have. I mean, that's just like a cathartic thing. But I think, you know, I think it's a very well done, it's a very smart film. But what do you think about this?
I like the film quite a bit too. I personally likes the the best day being the penultimate day, so to speak, just because.
Okay.
Well, the film is very self-aware that it is very similar premise-wise to Groundhog Day,
and so it kind of subverts that expectation.
It lulls you into the false sense of
Totally
security, like, hey, yeah, this is good. She's done it, and then when shit goes down, it's like, oh no, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's where but again,
I feel bad for all those people that it's like, oh, that was because like some of them she actually like helps them realize things about themselves, and it's like really good for the people around her. And I'm just like, oh, that. I hope she goes back and like helps those people.
And I imagine, like, because the entire point of this story is similar to Groundhog Day, is like this irredeemable person becoming redeemable. Right.
Yeah,
and I guess there's the hope that would be the case once things are resolved as they are. But no, I thought it was a good film. I started the sequel, I remember, on a plane and turned it off soon after when they started explaining stuff. That was what bothered me about this. I think on its own, I think it's a fine standalone film. I didn't finish the sequel, but when they started explaining why things are happening the way they are, I'm just thinking, you guys are trying too hard here.
I honestly like the sequel. It's much more like a science fiction horror comedy. Again, they're adding another genre. And yeah, at first, you know, it feels like they're like messing with the magic, but it's not that they're messing with, they're changing it. And I think that they actually come to they're subverting your expectations where you would expect this sequel to go. And I think it actually lands in a really good place.
Okay.
I have heard from some people that, again, didn't like the sequel, but I think, again, they were really wanting it to follow the same pattern as the first one, and I like the fact that it changed it.
Sure. I'm cool with changing. I guess sometimes I think with certain films, again, having only seen like a little bit of the film itself, I just feel like with certain cases, it's less is more. You know what I mean?
I
And
mean,
I'm not saying that.
I do agree that it didn't need a sequel, but at the same time, I think that the sequel, if you're going to do a sequel, it needs to be different enough that it offers something new and fun and creative. And I think that the sequel
Oh, no,
did
I
that.
agree.
Honestly, my biggest regret about that sequel is, unfortunately, it didn't do well enough to get a third one, because it actually had been a planned trilogy.
Yeah.
And I would be really interested as to where the filmmakers would have, because I thought that both the first and the second one were really creative, and I actually really enjoyed this character played by Jessica Rothe.
Oh, maybe in a couple of years we'll get that revamp like they do. It'll be called the Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
We'll get that. Who knows? But yeah, no, Happy Death Day is great. I had a good time with that one.
Yeah.
Next up, wing wise, we have this one's a little bit different. This one's going to be a little bit of an outlier with the rest. This one's called Gwyneth Paltrow's Bathwater.
Okay. All right. This is number 7.
Yeah, and this one might taste a
right.
little bit familiar to you.
Uh-oh.
Mm. Mm.
Did you put Malort in this? I mean, I will say, first of all, it's not as bad as Malort, but there are the tones of Malort.
I'm just so glad you picked it out right away.
Oh my God.
No, I did. There's Malort in there.
Yeah, and the more you eat it, the more you taste it.
But it's not just that. My goal with this was to make something that at least couples somewhat okay with Malort. Not to say that it's good, but this one is a jalapeno based with apple cider vinegar and mint. Because mint does pair with wormwood, which is the base the base flavor profile of Malort. I think my buddy Will just texted me. He knew about the Malort. So yeah, yeah, I did add more. Will he just texted me? Yeah, I added a little bit more in there just to make sure that the main player came through.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
So glad you picked that one out. Okay.
I mean, it's hard not to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will say, if anybody's ever had Malort, it's not like eating straight Malort, but you can taste it. And like I said, the more you eat it, the more you taste it.
If you haven't had Malort before, here's the skinny. No matter what liquor store you buy it from, the person you buy it from at the cash register will always give you a look. I promise. Even if they're in Chicago.
It's like drinking sawdust. Like it's
not great. It's definitely an acquired taste. Yeah. Shout out to my buddy Jamie for introducing me to that. He's one of the ones who helped me sample this list. So next movie, my number 2. And I also think I might be flip-flopping on this one too, because I go back and forth between these next two for my top spot for horror. I've gone between them for years. But I guess, with this one, I'm going to go with John Carpenter's The Thing, which is on many top horror lists, but for a very good reason. It is not only a remake, but it is, in my opinion, an improvement upon the original. It's a masterpiece of filmmaking. Yeah. The special effects obviously are a knockout of the park. I mean, even today, because I watched this not too long ago, and it still looks amazing. And the way they shoot around it, it'd be so easy for them to screw it up and make it look super fake and super hokey, and almost like when you think of like Schwarzenegger's faces, like his prosthetic faces during like Total Recall, for example, which came out around the same time. But it's not the case. Like even still, like when you have those moments where the body horror will come into play, it really does still shock you just how good it looks. And it is a case. It's a prime example of like why we cannot leave practical effects behind. They're hard, and these weren't easy by any stretch when you look at them. But in addition to that,
they're so impressive.
they're incredible. They're
yeah.
incredible and creative. It's not even just like there's so many. They could have just made this so basic, but they didn't. There's just vision behind the designs of so much of this. On top of that, it's not just special effects either. I mean, you have great characters. You have this great premise where they're in this Antarctic base, these researchers, and it doesn't even start out the origin story of the creature itself. Like it happens to be a stumble upon from other researchers at a nearby base. The great one of my favorite things actually about the film in and of itself is the rewatch value behind it, because the first time you see it, especially if you don't know much about it going in, you're watching it very much from the perspective of the people that are victimized throughout the film. But where it gets especially interesting in later watches, especially as you're more familiar with it, you start to recognize the thought process of the creature itself as it moves from victim to victim.
Yeah.
Because like even out the gate, I mean, not a spoiler at all. It enters the camp as a dog.
Yeah.
And from the get-go, you see the dog like looking around the base, and it's not doing that because it's just like a puppy they couldn't train very well. It's because it's the creature trying to learn the layout of this environment so it can know where to go and like what it can utilize to take over. And also like looking at it from like the way that people who are actually truly infected by it are speaking to get themselves out of the situations. It's great dialogue as far as like subverting you, making you think. I mean, it is like the textbook case of like a fantastic paranoia story. And I think you have great examples of that with stuff like Body Snatchers, but I think this one just shines above all those. You even still today, sometimes I'm like, wait, who is infected and who isn't right now? It's terrifying. And the way, and again, in case you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but the way it ends also has a little bit of interpretation to it in a way that is also kind of satisfying. And again, I can't say much more than that. If you haven't seen it, please watch it because you're missing out on one of the best films ever made, let alone a horror film. But yeah, that's my number 2.
All right.
I mean, for you. Okay.
Yeah. I will just say I have already said, full spoilers here. I mean, your movie's from '82, the year I was born.
Maybe, but yeah, I guess for me, it's like a lot of like hide and seek, for example, is based on like does rely upon those like revelations. Whereas this film, it's more specific moments that don't ruin the story necessarily, but it does embellish when you kind of experience it fresh for the first time.
Yeah.
Quick question about your wing. How covered is your next one, like sauce wise? It should be like a purple sauce.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Okay, like you can get a pretty good bite out of that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, whenever you're ready. I'm gonna dab your next one before we launch into the final 2, though.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say the next 2 actually look kind of dry. Doesn't look like there's much on it.
Well, the very last one has not been seasoned yet.
That's right.
Your penultimate one, though, I'm gonna touch back up while you're talking.
Okay. All right.
Dig in. This one's called Eiffel Steve Borden. As a wrestling fan, I figure you might appreciate that.
I'm glad you said wrestling because I was like, I know the name Steve Borden. Why can I not pull it? Yeah, took me a second.
Yeah, the only way the sauce could have been better was if I lowered it down from the rafters. But
you mean heat-wise? I will say so far, this is not as hot as some of the ones I've tasted previously. Of course, I'm sure it climbs.
It's got some heat behind it. It's not a strict progression, too. I wanted to kind of add some levels so it's not just pain. But
yeah. I do like the flavor there.
This one is a blueberry. Combined with a combination of ghost pepper and the remaining scorpion peppers, which is why my lips are burning right now. But yeah, this one, my buddy Jamie said he was going to try these on some chicken and waffles. I think it's a great idea. I want to do that when I get the chance to, because the blueberry doesn't pair with everything, obviously. But
sure,
yeah, that's Eiffel Steve Borden.
All right. So that brings me to my number 2. And like I said, while you were talking about one of your movies, I suddenly remembered a film as I was making this list, I had just the hardest time putting together this list. And I just kind of wrote down like all of the horror films that I could think of that I had seen in the last few years that I just really enjoyed. And for one reason or another, I didn't think of this film. But as you were talking, it reminded me of the film. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I liked this one enough that it needs to be on the list somewhere. And I ended up putting it as my number 2 because the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, this is a really good movie. So I want to kind of highlight it. And the film, and I'm gonna say the year of the film because apparently there's more than one film called this name, and I want people to know which one I'm talking about. The film is The Invitation from 2015, starring Logan Marshall Green. And this is actually one of the reasons that I said, spoilers, simply because I came into this film actually during a film challenge. Had never heard of this film, had no clue what it was about. Didn't even know it was a horror film. So I will say, if you have not heard of this film, I'll describe it a little bit, and if it sounds like something you want to see and you haven't seen it, stick your fingers in your ears and go, and go watch it before you listen to the rest of this. But basically, like I said, it stars Logan Marshall Green as a man who has been invited to a dinner party with him and his girlfriend. We find out pretty quickly after they arrive that he was invited there by his ex-wife. And the reason that they are no longer married is because they had a child who had died. And basically the grief just kind of tore them apart.
Lisa.
Yeah. The child's name was Lisa?
No, never mind.
No, I was about to say, who's Lisa? No. Oh, okay. Oh my God. Of course. Sorry. Yeah. No, Lisa had nothing to do with this one. But
he didn't hit Lisa. He did not.
But yeah, so like I said, they're both kind of dealing with the grief, but obviously in their own ways. She seems a little bit more like the way that it's put is that like she's become part of this new support group or whatever that has helped her get through all of this. And I believe some of the people at the party are part of this thing, and some people are just her friends that she has invited. In fact, I need to pull up this guy's name because he's just John Carroll Lynch is in this film. And anybody who's not familiar with John Carroll Lynch, he plays pretty much one of two types of characters. Either he's just a good, strong, stable guy in a movie, or he is the creepiest person ever. That's pretty much the only two types of roles I've ever seen him play in any movie that he's been in. But in this one, he is very much the latter. And he comes in representing this group that she has become a part of. And, basically, like, it seems like they've all been invited to this party just kind of as like a, I've had a hard time, but I'm getting through it. And you guys are my friends. I just want you to kind of share in this moment. But as things progress, it starts to become very clear that there is more at play in this situation. And it is at this point that if this sounds intriguing, go watch it. Because it is very quickly revealed that this is not a support group. Basically, it is a group of people who are so lost in their grief that they believe that their only way through it is to gather their friends and family around them and for everyone at the party to die. A lot of them are committing suicide, but basically, if you've been invited to the party, you are expected to die, even if it isn't. Some people are, I believe, they hand out drinks to everybody, and it's not explained, what this is about. Some of them drink it and immediately, fall over and start. It's not an easy poison. They start exhibiting definite signs of
Yeah.
poison, and it's a rough poison. And like I said, some of them did not drink, and so they start becoming wise. And it definitely, the film becomes a metaphor for for grief, for depression, for just kind of the loneliness of those things, and the desire to bring other people into your grief. And sometimes that can actually be very healthy, and sometimes it can be very destructive. And I love this film for like what it says and how it deals with, like I said, struggles with grief. And it's just a really smart and well told film.
I was a big fan of this movie. I also got to give a shout out to Michael Heisman, who was the host of the party. He's been in a couple of the Mike Flanagan shows. I think he was one of the main characters in Haunting of Hill House. He's great in the film as well. He's that very much like lure you in type of like calm, like a gaslighting type of calm, I guess is a good way to put it. I think this film, I would even call it less so a horror film or a scary film, so much as I would call it like a film of dread, because that's just kind of the constant feeling you have throughout.
But I will say that is like a genre of.
I'm not just trying to discredit it for that. I just mean like that's the weapon of choice for this film, because the entire time you just feel like distrustful.
There's an impending sense that something is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. It almost feels like you're being gaslit the entire time. It just, and I mean, in some cases you are, as are the characters. It does very well to put you in that perspective. And it doesn't let up once you get into it either. And again, the casting, as you said, is great, especially, I forget the actor's name, but yes, he was the husband in Fargo. Yeah. He was the husband in Fargo. And like, that's where I've always known him best for. And so when I see him in this, I'm thinking like, man, like you've had some range that I have not appreciated you for like all these years,
The other thing, because you're right. He's in that. He's also, I believe, the health-stricken brother in The Founder. Because he and Offerman, Nick Offerman, are the McDonald's brothers.
He's been a character actor for like a bunch, like everyone knows him from something.
But he was also kind of the lead suspect in the serial killer was never found, based on a real story. Zodiac, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's super creepy in that.
I haven't seen the movie in years. I forgot he was in it. Okay, right on. No, fantastic film.
I think Teddy's talking to you.
Yes, he is talking to me. I'm sorry, buddy. I got to talk to some other people first. Okay. Did you have any more thoughts on that one?
No. Just like I said, when I thought of that one, I was like, that has to go on the list.
Yeah, good call. Good choice. That's an excellent choice. I guess, again, different films, but if you like that kind of feeling of like discomfort, I would definitely encourage you to at least try Climax at some point if you ever come across it.
When you were talking about Climax is what made me think of it.
Okay, so for penultimate wing, I've said penultimate a lot in this podcast. I sound like a Collider host.
Okay.
Okay, this last one is called. This penultimate one is called because the song I was listening to when I bought the ingredients, "Dear Agony."
Okay.
I named it after a Breaking Benjamin song, Clay. Everyone between 30 and 40 in the audience is going, yeah. Everyone else is going, what? All right.
I will say, before anything else happens, I do like the immediate flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice.
But I can feel it building.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely some smokiness in this.
Yeah. This one is a little bit more bare bones. It's mostly Carolina Reaper.
Okay.
Not a lot. I made it like a little bit cooler on the vinegar side just to make sure it wasn't. We still have a 10th place, but yeah, not a whole lot to say about this one other than just that that's the main pepper of choice. My next pick is I guess my final pick.
Yeah.
And man, there's some people watching that are just gonna call me the most basic bitch for this one, and I'm ready for it. But my number one is Alien,
I love Alien.
which I was conflicted with for a while, even putting on this list because it's also a sci-fi horror similar to the Thing. But I think they're so starkly different as far as their types. I mean, there's the isolation aspects, but I think it's still its own beast. The film in and of itself is just kind of phenomenal that it was as good as it was because it came out right when people were, right at the tail end of Star Wars hype. Everyone was kind of hopping back onto the sci-fi wagon, and then along comes this R-rated sci-fi horror film with one of the best movie poster taglines in history: "In space, no one can hear you scream."
Yeah.
And just so much of this movie is just imagination. That's basically all it screams at me every time I watch it. That first act when they land on the planet they got the distress signal from.
Yeah.
Just all the creative designs. I mean, it sparks literally so many fan theories for decades up until Prometheus came out and ruined them all. But
Sure.
But so much cool ideas went into that. Obviously, like the what's his name? The H.R. Geiger designs of all the creature effects and such is insanely creative.
Yeah.
The scale of everything, the design, even just the premise itself is just so unique to me. Because again, everyone says this, but the idea that especially when you're used to like the kind of Star Trek aspect where like, hey, these officers or these professionals of some kind to deal with a threat are in space to get invaded. No, these are just like these random like truckers in the middle of outer space that happen upon this alien creature. There's a conspiracy beneath, that you can kind of explore with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. But again, these are people that are just like these big riggers basically, and they have to deal with the situation on their own. And that's terrifying when you consider their profession. Because again, like I look at one horrible example is Jason X, where they have a couple heavies who are good with like guns and combat and shit like that. But no, they don't have that. They have to only their brains. And again, that's where this film really shines for me. On top of all of that, you have the characters. Every single character on this crew feels fully fleshed out. Even the ones that don't live quite as long as others. Even spoiler, but the John Hurt character, who I think is he's the first to die.
Yeah.
Even he feels like his own developed individual. I mean, you have
and it's John Hurt, who wasn't as big of a name as he became, but was still a well-known and respected actor already. Yep. So for them to kill him off first.
Yeah. And it worked. You also have Harry Dean Stanton. You have God, what is his name? He was the villain in Live and Let Die.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but he passed recently.
I think he did.
Like within the last couple of years.
It's going to drive me nuts till I get home. I'm going to text you this guy. But no, he's fantastic in the film. Like again, even like the more asshole people of the ship, you just kind of empathize for them. You care about them. You do root for them, even like when they fight and when they bicker. I mean, the entire premise of the film relied on the idea of them arguing about the idea of protocol of quarantine.
Yeah.
And these people just wanting their friend to be okay.
Yeah.
And you're really torn on the perspective. You understand the perspectives of the characters. It doesn't feel contrived. It doesn't feel like straight up bullshit just to get a plot happening.
Yeah, it's Yaphet Kotto, by the
Thank
way.
you, thank you, thank you, thank
And
you. Yes,
I will say to that point, I think it's easy to write off Veronica Cartwright's character as
oh no, no,
kind
no,
of,
no, no, no,
you
no.
know,
She's great.
screamy and but like you said, she's driven by emotion. It's understandable emotion.
Yes, yes. No, she's yeah. I think it'd be an incredible disservice to write her off as just the
Yeah,
crying character in peril.
right.
She is yeah. She has more vulnerability, but again, every person in the crew at some point does. And again, she cares about her friend. That's what gets them in the situation. Um, and obviously, we're talking about characters that we can't not talk about Sigourney Weaver, who is like one of the best, not only like best horror characters of all time, but just best characters in film of all time.
Right.
She is from the get go. You can tell she has fantastic authority. She's
Right.
also empathetic. She's incredibly bright, and she also is again so many decisions so many things that go wrong happen because they were things that were chosen against her advice. And
Yeah.
it's logical advice. Of course, she's going to be trying to lock the ship up to check for quarantine. And
Right.
of course, they're not going to listen to her. But she's brilliant. And obviously, she goes on even further with the sequel.
Yeah.
But even just in this film in a bottle, she's just a phenomenal character. And she's just so mesmerizing on screen to follow. Again, you understand her thought process. You root for her. You recognize her strength. I mean, I could go on just for,
but at the same time, what I like about it is that she's not like, if you came into this movie knowing absolutely nothing about it, not knowing that she headed the franchise into the next few movies, on its face, she doesn't seem like the main character.
No. She
Tom
doesn't even
Skerritt
get the first introduction.
seems like the main character.
Yeah. Yeah, him or even John Hurt, because again, he's the first person you see on the crew.
Right. Yeah. So it really, she doesn't start to distinguish herself until shit starts to go down. Yeah, exactly.
And we're also forgetting Ian Holm, who is, again, this cast is fucking great.
Ian Holm as Ash in this is because he, speaking of telegraphing, it's not, his true nature is not like, you don't, I mean, when you go back and you rewatch the film, you get why he did certain things. And then it's like, oh, that's why he did that.
Yep.
But before that, he just, again, seems like he is, making the decisions that, he's following orders. He's doing what he was told to do. This, and that, also and the other. And
it helps that he looks like your average Joe as well. Because unlike I'm not negatively comparing necessarily, but compare him to like Michael Fassbender, who was an actor I love. But from the minute that guy's a robot, like even before like it's revealed to you that he's.
But he's also supposed to be an earlier model, so he's supposed to be a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, but the fact that like they had the look of this guy who's supposed to be unassuming because he's covertly, a machine.
Yeah, he's supposed to be covert, and he is.
And then I guess the last point of praise I'll give the movie. I mean, there's so much I could do with it, but the cinematography is obviously the production value, of course, which I've already said. But the cinematography, particularly the lighting, is one of my favorite aspects of it, because you have this flickering light throughout the ship, and a lot of times you see that shit in horror films or even action films, and I feel like it's cheaply used because it feels out of place. It just feels like it was put there to elicit the emotion. But on this crew, not only is it there to obviously make you terrified of what you're not seeing in the shadows, but again, this is like a big rig truck floating through outer space. It's going to have like rinky dink lighting. It's going to have like dripping water lines and such like throughout the vessel. It's going to be it's an atmosphere that begs to be a horror set because it's just it's creepy on its own.
And I mean, it basically started a genre of horror storytelling. I mean, I know a lot of horror, shows that have used the alien setup. It's a wonderful setup to tell a horror story. Something's in the dark. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it is. It's coming to get us. It's a brilliant setup for a horror story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, indeed. So great film. I assume everyone's seen it. I really hope you have. If not, why
I
are you
mean,
watching the movie podcast?
I will say of the ones we've talked about, it's one of the ones that it doesn't matter how much you talk about. It doesn't really mess with the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a must watch for sure.
Yeah,
Then.
absolutely. All
Well,
right. So,
okay.
yeah, we're at the last one, and I know you need to do some work here.
I got to do a brushy brush for you. So
yeah.
one sec.
All right.
Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, gonna pull out the gloves.
The container that I bought these in. Not the container the peppers came in told me I needed to do this. So I'm just making sure I'm playing it safe.
All right. All right. And here he is. He's got a jar and a brush to do this. So he's going to come and apply this sauce.
Actually, hold on, I'll be right back.
Oh, sorry. How dare you? All right. So yeah, I will say, this is my last movie, and originally this was my 2, but when I rearranged things, I decided that the one I was going to remove was the one that I initially put in as my number 1, because even though I do want to talk about it, more people know about it. So I we can still talk briefly about it in honorable mentions, but I kind of actually think that it's fitting that my number 1 now is my number 1, because it's one that I've heard some people like agree with me as to how good it is, and then I've also seen some people put it as one of their least favorite films, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Please tell me it isn't Multiverse of Madness.
No.
Okay.
No. No. Speaking of, I am surprised that none of the Evil Dead films made your list.
I considered it. I really did. Because I needed like a more campy thing on here, but it was just too hard to cut anything else. And
Sure.
I love those films, but I did try to. I don't know. Yeah, I can't really explain other than like these other films were just too hard for me to cut.
Gotcha.
Well, I gotta find the lid, or else it's gonna start making me tear up.
I was about to say it's in here. You left it in here.
Okay.
Yeah, come. Okay. I was about to say I saw the look on your face, and I was like, "Is that based on us talking about the movie, or is the sauce really getting to you?" Oh, geez. It's fine. It did flare up while you were talking, so I took a mouthful of milk.
All right.
But yeah, you got me worried about this last one.
Okay. Yeah, first time I tried this, I spilled some of my beard, and the hair hasn't grown back since. Okay.
Jeez.
All right. Oh man, I'm glad I don't have to talk through this next one. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
All right. Oh, geez. Okay. And you like layered this on here.
Oh no, me too. No, not just
all right. Man. Yeah. Look at that. All right.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Okay, this next one. It's called Pizza Time.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Cheers.
Another one that's definitely smoky. Already getting a little bit here. A little bit of heat. You look like you're actively in pain.
I'm sorry.
Already.
I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez, dude.
Oh man.
You don't have to eat the whole thing.
I do. There are rules.
Okay.
You're already drinking?
I'm anticipating here. Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those radiating, like my skin is starting to feel warm.
Yes, Teddy, give me your love. Give me your love. Give me your love. Give me your oh.
Yeah, be careful. You all right?
Yeah, Theodore just got a little wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm not going to drink or eat anything until you're done talking.
okay. I mean, I'm not making you do that. Do you need towels? No? Paper towels?
I'm covered.
Because yeah, my eyes are definitely watering.
This one I made a standard pizza sauce. And then instead of the tomato puree, I used Carolina Reaper puree and a lot of it. Even more than I would have used if it was tomatoes.
Why?
So you got because you got your roasted garlic, you got your rosemary, you got your sage, you got your Italian spices, and oh god, snot bubbles. Here they come. Oh god. Okay. Yeah, my lips are burning. So that's what we got.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely a step up.
To step up to the streets.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right.
Well, what's your last movie? You're keeping me in suspense.
Yeah, I know. All right. So my last movie is actually from last year. And it is the film Smile. You seen Smile?
But we've talked about it before. That was my guess.
I really enjoyed Smile. I will say I was invited to go see this movie on a date. And I'm a bit of a novice to horror. It's not a genre that I mean, if I hear of something and I'm like, that sounds good, I'll check it out. But it's not one that I usually go in blind to see. So it wasn't, high on my list when she asked, about going to a movie. I was, there were a few other films that I was thinking of, and she was like, let's go see Smile. And I was like, ooh, okay. And, like I said, I listened to a couple of film podcasts, and, the people I heard talk about it actually, said that they really liked it. But, they're big horror fans, and they were like, it was scary and it really got me. And I was like, ooh, if it gets them, I'm really kind of worried. But I went, and I will say, while, there's a lot of things that I like about this movie. I enjoy just the storytelling and the filmmaking in this movie so much that as I was watching it, I realized that if anybody was looking at me, they would have been thoroughly creeped out, because there were definitely points where I was just sitting there smiling, which is part of, the creep factor in the
You
film.
probably should do that in audience. Yeah.
So basically it is about a counselor who sees this woman who is talking about basically how she has seen things nobody and everybody thinks that she's crazy. Nobody is believing her.
No.
And that she just keeps seeing people smile. Well, things progress, and she ends up killing herself with the counselor watching. And are you just eating more of this? Why are you doing this to yourself? But obviously the film ends up also being a metaphor for mental illness and for grief and dealing with it. And I will say, it follows a lot of the tropes that you would expect in a movie like this, and then it goes the opposite way of what you expect them to do. There are a lot of I remember when I was listening to the film podcast, they mentioned that there was a visual in this movie that was so unique that they didn't think that they'd seen anything like it in a film. And I'm pretty sure I know what they're talking about. I'm not going to be specific because it sticks with you.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about?
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I saw that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah. That shit was cool.
Yeah. It's an image that sticks with you. But this film was so smart and so well done. And like I said, there's also, some very real commentary on mental illness and just kind of that it's not an easy fix. That it's not something, even if you think that you've conquered it, it can come roaring back. And it's just such a smart, well done story. And I will say I have not revisited this one, mainly because I haven't revisited a lot of the horror movies that I've seen. Mainly just because like they're things that I would want to share with someone, not necessarily that I want to rewatch on my own again. But I mean, this one is definitely one that if people are horror fans and have not seen it, I definitely do suggest it. But yeah.
I asked you this last time actually. Have you seen It Follows yet?
No, I have not.
You got to see that one, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it's still on Netflix, but yeah, if you like the vibe of this movie, this one I think Smile definitely takes some influence from it because it's a good time.
Nice.
Not the same experience per se, I don't think, because I haven't seen all of Smile, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's worth a watch.
Nice. All right.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying I seem to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still feeling a little bit radiating. It's mostly on my lips. I think it's actually mostly gone from my mouth, but
I haven't had anything. I haven't chased it or anything though.
That's right. That's right. And I've been, kind of, holding a little milk. So
whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah.
And plus I got a little bit of Waterloo left. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I guess we got an honorable mention.
Honorable mentions.
And we did a shot of Malort with our honorable mention, but I already put the Malort in the hot sauce, so I had to come up with something different. And so I figured because I was
I'm not gonna lie, the color of this worries me a bit.
No, I'm not. I didn't. This one's a real cocktail, I promise.
Okay.
One of my favorite modern cocktails, and because we were having sauce with Trinidad Scorpion in it, I figured it made sense for us to end things with a delicious Trinidad sour cocktail.
Okay.
So that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna talk about some honorable mentions while we sip, I guess, because this is a sipper.
Okay.
Now are we doing just one? I can't remember if we agreed on that.
I mean, I've got a list. So if you've got more that you can think of, feel free. Yeah. But
okay, I can think of like 3 runners. I mean, yeah. So this one, I'll go with my first one that I've already written down first. I'm gonna drink after I say it.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was a little bit too similar to my number 1 pick to put on the list on its own,
Sure.
and it's also a shorter runtime because it's a short film. But I had to do it. This one is an anime film. It's an Eastern animation film from a collection of 3 shorts by an artist named Katsuhiro Otomo. If you don't know who that is, he is the director and lead artist behind the film Akira.
Okay.
And he made a trilogy of short films called Memories. And this is the first of that trilogy, and it's called Magnetic Rose. And it is a masterpiece in terms of the animate. Well, hold on, let me sip. Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. That's good. I like that.
It's a bitters shot cocktail.
It tastes kind of cinnamony.
It's bitters, it's orgeat, it's a little bit of rye and lemon juice.
Okay.
And the nice thing about it too, with the bitters being so forward, it's going to help us with our stomachs digesting this shit later. So,
awesome.
Cheers. The Magnetic Rose premise is so tell me if this sounds familiar. A group of big rig space guys are floating through space, about to head home after a hard day's work, when they get a distress call in the middle of I believe an asteroid, a section of asteroids, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's still with me. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But they answered the distress call, and then shit goes wrong, and that's where the similarities to Aliens stop.
Gotcha.
Because again, have you seen Akira?
I haven't. I mean, obviously I want to get to it, but
it's a good film. It's the plot's obviously kind of up to some disagreement, but it is considered by many to be the best animated film of all time. I actually went to a panel at Dragon Con, my first Dragon Con ever. I went to a panel where a guy went into like a 6-hour panel talking about why, and he convinced me. But this film is beautifully animated. I cannot understate that. The parallax shots, the 360 spins. Again, this is all 2D animation, but it's seamless. The themes behind it are gorgeous. It covers everything from grief to just psychological horror to the idea of like spiritual hauntings. There is so much to unpack with it. It is a beautiful story. It's about 30 minutes long. So again, it's an easy watch.
Sure.
The trilogy of films as a whole, they're all well animated. I think the other two aren't as strong as this first entry, but Magnetic Rose is just beautiful. The music is haunting. Without going too much further into spoilers, they find this dilapidated building within this asteroid belt, almost like a castle, and they find that it was home to a once famous opera singer. And that's where I'll stop about details. But as they explore, some shit gets really fucked up. But yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I think they just only a couple of years ago they came out with an English dub of it, which isn't bad. And I think it's on Amazon too, if I'm not mistaken. At least it was. But it's a wonderful experience. I highly recommend it. Again, 30 minutes long. No reason not to watch it. Yeah, that's my first shout out.
All right. So let's see. I'm gonna.
Is your nose hair hurt, or is it just me?
No.
Okay.
No, like I said, the pain is pretty much gone. I'm feeling a little warmth in my lips, but that's really about it.
Okay.
And honestly, I sometimes feel that, when I drink. So, all right. So have you had any milk or anything to chase the heat? Do you need something?
I'm facing what I created.
Head on.
I am Frankenstein facing his monster down, saying, "Hey, Mr. Green, what do you want?"
All right.
And what they want is pain.
My original number one, and it's mostly just because of the conversation I want to have. Was An American Werewolf in London.
Good pick.
Part of why I had it there before, rearranging, was the fact that it was one of the first, when I started deciding to get into horror movies, it was one of the first that I decided to do, because at the time I was listening to a podcast called 80s All Over. And they absolutely loved this film. And it is a horror comedy, again, definitely heavier in the horror side than the comedy, but it still has some of the best werewolf transformation effects of any werewolf movie. I think one of the only ones that comes close is The Howling, which I believe came out the same year.
Which has my favorite title for a sequel.
Oh, is the Howling? Oh. Remind me, what is it called?
Howling 2. Well, there's two titles, but I prefer the bonus title. The original, the main title is Your Sister's a Werewolf, but my favorite one is Steerba Werewolf Bitch.
Okay. Yeah, I remembered Your Sister's a Werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one went campy quickly.
Oh, then they got the marsupials in the next one.
Yeah.
That's what shit really. But yeah, Howling and Werewolf in London are like two of like the biggest contenders for top werewolf spot.
Yeah, I mean they've got some great effects, but just the tone of American Werewolf in London is so good. It perfectly rides the line of like creepy, scary werewolf movie while also being a little tongue in cheek and um dealing with, because it starts off with two buddies, just walking around Scotland. One of them gets killed.
He gets done bit.
Yeah, and then the other one gets bitten. And one of the elements that is both horror and comedy is that his friend basically keeps visiting him and has increasing stages of rotting. He's decomposing, and like the makeup on it is done so well. But that's where a lot of the comedy comes from, because these two were friends, but at the same time he's telling his friend, hey, you need to off yourself, or you need to let someone off you, otherwise you're gonna kill people and it's gonna be on your conscience. And I will say one of my favorite things about this movie is the end, because the way that it's done, I liked this movie all the way through, but when that ending hit, number one, I literally just started laughing. But it's just so well done. And again, if you haven't seen it, go away. But if you have, it's perfect, because like he's transformed into a werewolf. He's trying to attack someone. He's tracked down, basically surrounded, and they shoot him, kill him
until he's dead.
Yeah, and dies, and his girlfriend screams, and then immediately hard cut. It's just so out of nowhere and so perfect. The way that just, it's like, okay, story's over. We're done. It's so well done. So brilliant, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those fantastic examples of balancing horror and comedy. I mean, I can't say much more than you have. I mean, obviously the special effects are king in that film. It kind of solidified to me with any werewolf movie, if you can't pull off the werewolf transformation, then like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And that may be a hot take, I don't know, but like I judge every werewolf movie I see by how they handle the transformation. And if you do that off camera shit, then like you've already lost me. Like, I'm sorry, like it's just, It's I think a werewolf film taking it on is almost like a challenge to yourself in terms of like technical special effects.
Yeah.
And
I
this,
will say, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like in this film, like takes that challenge and then runs with it because it
Yeah.
is a wonder to watch. It's similar to The Thing. Even still, it is fantastic to watch.
Yeah. I will say another thing that I have seen that at least handled the transformation effects really well, really kind of bring home how painful the transition is. Unfortunately, it falls down because the ultimate monster sucked. But if you've ever watched the first episode of the UK version of Being Human, there is a sequence in there. Basically, the show is about a ghost, a vampire, and a werewolf that live together.
Okay.
But it's as realistic and real life as that can be, because it's basically just about them kind of dealing with their shit and still having to deal with rent and stuff like that. But during the episode, the werewolf character has to transform inside the house, and like I said, the actual transformation elements look so good. And they really drive home how painful the experience is. Unfortunately, like I said, the ultimate creature, which they show just for a split second at the very end, but it's so bad. It's so ridiculous. But all the effects up to that moment are so well done.
You want to know what my favorite CG werewolf transformation is?
What's that?
Van Helsing.
Okay. I've only seen that movie once, and it was like years ago.
I saw it when it first came out, but I watched it years later. It's like a great camp movie. Like it's so dumb, but it's such a fun watch, especially with friends. And I actually genuinely do like the werewolf transformations in that movie, even though it's all CG. But like them ripping their skin off as like they're like in agony and writhing, that's like really cool shit to me.
Okay.
And again, it's like nothing like revolutionary like Werewolf and like American Werewolf in London, but
sure,
it is. It's a good time.
All right. Do you have any others that you want to mention?
Yeah, I guess I can. One of my runners up in the list that was just edged out by Climax, more so because of recency bias. I'll preface that because for years this movie was my number one favorite horror film. But I don't know. I feel like I just had more to say for this podcast about Climax from recency.
Sure.
But that would be Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No, I have not, but I've obviously heard a lot about it.
It's Tim Robbins. I think it's in the 70s. He's got some 70s ass hair in it, that's for sure. And he's like a postman. It's similar to Climax in that like it kind of approaches the idea of the horror being the mind, your own mind not being trustworthy. And it obviously was on the cusp of the Vietnam War, so it was playing off a lot of that horror that was going on at the time. And obviously, the film is a legend alone for inspiring the Silent Hill games, the originals. Okay. But the film isn't your conventional type of horror, and like there's like a bunch of like jump out and scare you type of things. Even in the case of the good instances of films doing that, even the ones we've talked about, the film just more so relies on you knowing something is wrong, you having no control over knowing something is wrong.
Sure.
I mean, again, similar with what you're talking about with The Invitation. The scene that the key scene that sticks out to me, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and I'll keep it spoiler free in case you watch it, Clay. But if you're listening and you know the film, the shit your pants moment for me every single time is Dream On.
Okay,
that's all I'll leave with that one. Actually, I'll elaborate a little bit more because again, you don't know. That scene, the way it comes in, the way how it's done off camera, how you don't know what the fuck said that thing. You never find out what said that thing. Tim Robbins' reaction to that thing. It's just a couple seconds, but every single time I dread that moment on the screen, and that's yeah. I got one other honorable mention, but otherwise that's my two. Of
right. I will say that film came out in 1990.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Okay, well, I guess it's playing off of that 30-year cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's definitely playing off of Vietnam. Man, I remember him having some seven. Well, I guess he would have to because he's a Vietnam vet. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Damn. All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's see. I mean, I've got I've got several, but once we get past yours, I'll hit a bunch of mine rapid fire.
Okay.
I do want to. The only reason it didn't make this list is just because I have talked about it on 2 previous podcasts, both with you. So I'm just going to mention in my honorable mentions the Fear Street trilogy. I
Figured that'd
really
come up.
enjoy those films. They were basically a trilogy of films that were meant to come out in theaters, I think separated by a month. But it was in 2020, so they ended up just coming out straight to Netflix. And they use the name of R.L. Stein's Fear Street series, but I don't know that they have that much in common with them. But it's basically a trilogy of films that basically like each one kind of works together, and they all take place in different time periods. One is the first one is 1994, the second one's 1978, and the last one is 1666. Yeah, and like I said, that they all take place like they're all about like these 2 towns. One that is like, wealthy and is where all the rich people live, and kind of their neighboring sister city is basically where all the poor people live. And just kind of it's ultimately about like generational trauma and how rich people are assholes and all sorts of different things. But I really enjoy the trilogy. I think it's a really solid trilogy of films.
Yeah, they're fun films.
Yeah.
And you can listen to us talk about those in one of
Yeah.
our previous episodes.
Yeah. Back before back when it was still Blind Spots.
Yeah, Blind Spots with what was the movie? What was the other one we watched?
That was your suggestion of it was Come and See.
Come and See. That's right.
Yeah, which was
I considered that for this list, but I was like, nah, it's kind of cheating. I feel like I consider more horror than war, but it's
sure.
Yeah. Did you have any more else with Fear Street?
No, that's bad.
My last shout out then will be another short film, actually, one I saw very recently. Let me make sure I get the title exactly right. I even think that you're aware of this because I think you jumped on the Facebook thread talking about it. It's a movie by Ari Aster that came out just before Hereditary. It's called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons.
Yeah, I saw you guys talking about this, and I was like, guys, because you were like, it's worse than Hereditary, and I'm like, guys, Hereditary fucked me up. I'm not watching this.
I wouldn't say it's I hesitantly say this. It's not conventionally scary like Hereditary is. It's more like, oh my God, I'm disturbed and disgusted with what's happening.
To me, that's what Hereditary is that it's disturbing.
I think Hereditary, and like, not this is.
I mean, there are some jump scares in Hereditary. Don't get me wrong, but ultimately,
I think jump scares
is disturbance.
I think where Hereditary differs from this movie is more of its incorporation of horror into its atmosphere.
Okay.
Like, when you have like scenes where you can like just vaguely make out silhouettes of people in the background, which is throughout the film. But the way they like use stuff like that's what sticks out to me the most when I think of Hereditary. But with this film, it's very much a different beast. Again, it's 30 minutes long. It's free on YouTube if you're curious. But I can't say honestly, I almost regret bringing this up because I can't. If for the optimal experience, I advise going into it as blindly as possible, because from the ending of the opening scene, you know the entire premise of the short, but that's where the horror lies. The horror is the premise. And if I say anything more than that, then I'm doing a disservice to your audience. So it's if you like Ari Aster, if you like where like his brain's at as far as like scary shit, if you like just fuck with your head horror, not like jump out and scare you horror, but just like make you think and cringe and dread. This is one I would consider, and have a bottle of something good at hand, because yeah, like
Yeah.
both my husband and
Ugh.
I, when we finished watching it, we were just like, fuck. So yeah, strange thing about the Johnsons.
Okay.
You can't see my thumb. There it is.
All right. All right. So let's see. I'm just gonna hit a couple of these rapid fire. First of all, I had, and I thought about putting on my main list, but I'm like, a lot. I mean, there are very few people that don't know about Get Out. It's a
True.
great movie. And obviously a lot of people have said it's kind of a remake of the Stepford Wives, and there are a lot of of those notes in there, but I think it's it's even more poignant, if that's possible. And there are some things. One of the things actually that, and I haven't talked about this because you don't want to give it away, but again, we're kind of talking openly. What I like in, obviously um the whole thing is, people of color being,
Preyed upon.
preyed upon, yeah, by people not openly hostile, white people, but people that are, oh no, we love you, you're great, but there's that underlying type of
Covertly and
yeah,
subversively racist. Basically.
exactly. And it's like that's even more disturbing
Yeah,
type
when
of
they're like,
thing. But
I voted for Obama, you know.
right. But
Mm,
what I love is that in a lot of those, if this movie had been made by a white person, there would be one white person that would be on their side and would be working with them and helping them. And what I love about this movie is that they present a character that could be that, and then they actually end up being the worst person among them. And I just really love how they kind of subverted that expectation and, did not let people, be like, oh, well, I would be that one nice person who'd be helping them. There aren't any in this movie. And if you're that person, you're actually the worst one. But yeah, I really like the kind of the truth and the idea of the discomfort that is there. It was very eye-opening and very well done, in my opinion. And to go along with that, obviously it's not nearly as subversive, but I also really enjoy Us, the second film by Jordan Peele. That one is a little bit more just straight up horror. Obviously there are some subversive elements and things going on there, but the acting and just the sheer horror of that one is so much fun and so well done for me. I really enjoyed Us as well. Then another one, a little bit more in the horror comedy realm, from just a couple of years ago. If you've ever seen the film Werewolves Among Us, I think it's on, at least for a while it was on the show on Showtime. You could also get it on Paramount Plus with the Showtime edition. But basically it is, kind of what it sounds like. It's kind of a movie version of the game Werewolf, where they're in a small town and there is a new sheriff that is brought into town, and basically people are being attacked and nobody knows who it is. What I like about the film, though, is that at first you're kind of introduced to this group of people as, semi likable, but the more you get to know about them, the more you realize, wow, everyone in this town is an asshole in one way or another. So it's like, you know, you kind of are a little bit on the werewolf side. And also just like the way that it's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's very funny. But it's really well done, and it's a lot of fun. Definitely one that I would suggest you check out if you get the opportunity.
Right on.
And then let's see, another good horror comedy, and I think it's still on Netflix. Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Great film.
Which is another one of those that kind of takes an expected stereotype and flips it on its head. You know, there are a lot of horror movies where you've got, you know, a group of people that are being terrorized by, you know, horrible rednecks or whatever. Well, basically, this is the opposite. These rednecks are actually really nice, really sweet guys. One of them is played by Alan Tudyk. And they come upon this cabin full of teenagers. And the teenagers all assume that these rednecks want to kill them. And wouldn't you know it, they start running around and just by their own sheer stupidity start dying. And, you know, of course, all the other teenagers assume that these two guys are doing it, but really all they're trying to do is help. And these teenagers just keep killing themselves. It's really funny. Definitely worth checking out. Then a couple of, you know, obvious ones. The new It Chapter 1 is really good. It Chapter 2, you know, the second half of that book has never been great. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also fucked it up.
Yeah, I watched even the miniseries version. Is the second half is not great. There, and honestly, I've heard people who read the book say the second half of the book is not that great.
Yeah, but it is kind of astoundingly bad, even with the book in context. I've read the book as well. It's astounding how poorly they dropped the ball on the second half.
It's yeah.
They could have done. It could have been okay. It could have been fine, but it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. But then Poltergeist is an all-time classic. That is one that I suggest to anybody that hasn't seen it. I think it's a great film. The Exorcist, the original The Exorcist, is one of those films that I had avoided for years, and when I watched it, I mean, it is genuinely freaky, but it is such a well-made film, and you're surprised how much of that film is not the elements that everybody thinks of. And to me, that really lends to the strength of the overall film. I've heard a lot of apparently younger film watchers think that it's really slow. And I'm just like, no, to me, it's building the suspense. It's building, because it's what
longer
makes
than your average bear, but you know.
Yeah. But I think that without that, the later things wouldn't be nearly as impactful.
And also rip Bill Friedkin.
Yes. Yeah. He passed. Was it a month ago?
Very, very recently.
Very recently. Yeah. Not long ago at all. And like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of slashers, but the original Nightmare on Elm Street is a really smart film. Likewise, the original Halloween, just very basic. You know, you can see where a lot of the genre tropes came from. You can see why a lot of people, you know, mimicked it. But yeah, good, solid films. And then, you know, an all-time comedy horror classic, Young Frankenstein. But yeah, like I said, I have basically 3 whole lists there.
You don't say.
Yeah. But yeah, just some great things for you guys to check out if you haven't already. Great films, all of them. Jack, thank you.
If you saw anything from our recommendations that you liked, let Clay know.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say, I mean, if you're here, you probably know about our stuff, but I will say if you want to get in contact with us, we are on Twitter and Instagram at the Flying Cow Pod. You can also email us at the Flying Cow Pod at gmail.com. You can also, don't forget to check out all of our shows that are now going to be on YouTube. I'm probably also going to look into in the next coming months releasing some of the earlier stuff onto YouTube. So and I will say we still have the patreon.com/the Flying Cow. Like I said, I'm going to be releasing the Ernest episodes one per month, but if you are a patron, you can go ahead and check all of that stuff out now. Also, if you're one of those people that wants to keep listening to us on audio, I'm going to make all of that stuff available on the Patreon on for free. I'm also probably going to lower our lowest tiered back down to $1. So, if you want to check out, some of our other stuff, because we do have some pretty basic stuff. I'm probably going to simplify everything over there, but there's still going to be some stuff worth checking out. We're still going to have a couple of just extra stuff, nothing 100%, no exclusive shows, but there will be like some extras that we will still put over there on the Patreon for people who want to check out some extra things. But yeah, Jack, anything you want to tell the people about?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Skoodle, Skoodel. D is in David. Stuff that I've been up to. An audiobook I just recorded not too long ago finally got released. Studio was great to work with. Good people involved. It's called Blue Horizons. It's by Catherine Andrews. That's Catherine with a Y. If you like romance novels, give it a listen. I use my sexy voice through much of it, so you can enjoy it for that. Beyond that, project-wise, is the strike over yet? I can't remember.
Strike's not okay. For SAG, not
so
yet.
I can't talk about the other thing then.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've teased it. I'll keep teasing it. I've got a project planned content-wise for ideally December. I'm a little bit behind schedule, but I'm hoping to get it rolled out by then. There's a specific reason I want it out in December, but if not, it will be soon after. So look forward to that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Well, I will say, hope everyone enjoyed this. I will still be trying to do this, once a month. It might not always be once a month, but we'll do it as often as we can. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Really like doing this stuff. Jack, always great to have you on. Hopefully we can have you come back to do something with us. I will say something that I forgot to mention. If right now some of our shows like the movie list and Nostalgia Cow are a bit on hold, but if we do them, they'll probably actually be more in this type of setup, more of like a live thing. That way I don't have to really spend much time trying to figure out when to put it out or anything like that. I can just put up a live stream and there we go. Yeah, so be on the lookout for all of that stuff. Look forward to seeing you all then. But yeah, we will be back later on doing more stuff. But until then, moo.